What's up, salespreneurs? I got a quick ask for everyone listening today, so please listen close. Look, one of the things I love about being in sales is just being surrounded by people who are pushing the envelope. This last weekend, this week, I was actually running a half marathon, and I hit my personal best by 12 minutes. I was super stoked. But what I think is even more fun than that is just like the community. Anyone that's ever done long distance running, you know that you're surrounded by people who are there to have a good time and just do their absolute best, whether they're walking the 5K or they're running it. And so, no one's jealous. It's just an inclusive environment. So my ask is, if you're new or you're a repeat listener to the show, go find one of the guests and shoot them a message just to let them know how their stories impacted you, because I know that it means a lot to them. We've got people that are, taking risks every day and working really hard. And so go and show some support, because I know that it means a lot. That being said, I just want to jump into it. Today, I've got Jordon Sarget, local entrepreneur who crushed it in tech sales for the last 10 years, quit his job not knowing exactly what he wanted to do, and ended up buying into a franchise and is hitting his 12-month mark here this month. But Jordon, welcome to Salespreneur Stories. I'm excited to have you, man.
Thanks, man. Yeah, appreciate the invite. It's good to be here. We went to lunch probably about a year ago, and you talked about doing the podcast. I was eager to get on, so I'm glad that I finally hit that year milestone where I meet your criteria of being on. So it's good to be on, man.
Yeah, well, it's crazy because I remember going to that lunch and it seemed like kind of a crazy time, because I know everyone goes through this period at their job where maybe there's like a frustration or whatever, but it seemed like you just had enough of this corporate tech sales background and decided to take a bet on yourself. So I think I'm curious to kind of see where that's taking you in the last year. Maybe for people that don't know you or your background, could you give us just a little bit more of an introduction?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name's Jordan. I spent the last almost 10 years in software sales, which if you're looking to get into the tech industry, I would 100% say it's an awesome industry and route to go. You can build a really good lifestyle. But yeah, so I spent 9 or 10 years there and had a lot of success. I enjoyed it for the most part. I met so many awesome people, friends that I'll be friends with forever. And then just kind of got to a point where I said, I want to do my own thing. So I don't know if you want me to jump into that now, or if we'll talk about that. But yeah, I totally did an industry pivot and shifted gears and kind of brought me to where I am today. So, but born and raised in Utah County. Um,
Right on. Yeah, and the business you're running now, it's 1-800 Striper. You're a franchisee. I'm excited to hear more about that. I'm kind of curious though. I feel like I'd love to hear more about kind of what led you to go down that path, because I feel like there was a lot that went into that. I know
yeah.
you worked in tech for 10 years, but curious if you could just tell us kind of what went into that decision to leave your W-2 and just go full time into doing something that you'd never done before.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'd always wanted to do my own thing. I've been pretty entrepreneurial without even realizing it. I've just always had that kind of entrepreneurial itch inside of me. A few years ago, I started a lawn care business, really not to generate tons of money, but really just to create jobs for my brother and some of his friends when they were teenagers. So I did that for a little while. I've been renting out wave runners for 3 or 4 years with a couple of buddies. I also run a nonprofit or a charity every Christmas with a buddy where we raise money and deliver gifts to families in need. So I've been kind of doing this entrepreneurial thing for a little while. And again, I never considered myself entrepreneurial, but looking back, it's like, oh, okay, I've kind of had that in me for a little while. My last company closed, a tech company. I'd get together in a room with a buddy once every week or two, and we talk about what we're going to do, right? It's like, okay, this is great for now, but we got to do something. We got to be able to generate more revenue for ourselves so we can really be wealthy and be self-sufficient. And so we would talk about, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Bounce ideas off of each other. And I just got to a point where I said, you know what? I don't want to wake up in 30, 40 years and still be in a place like this saying, oh, what am I going to do one day? What am I going to do? Right. So I said, you know what? There's never a great time to go off and do something. There's always excuses, right? There's certain expenses, family challenges, just a comfortable lifestyle that you live that you need to give up. There's so many things that you can always just make excuses for. So I said, you know what? Now is as good as any time. I'm gonna go off and kind of do my own things. Just kind of took a leap. As far as kind of why I went this route. So I read a book. Well, let me back up a little bit. Uh, so a big factor into this was actually my mom passed away last year in February of 2023. And when you've got a loved one or someone close to you that passes away or has health challenges, it really makes you reflect and think about life and the whole purpose of everything. And
Mm-hmm.
that was part of what really influenced me to say, you know what, I want to leave this life with, leaving a legacy behind. I want to do more. And for me, I had way more to offer than what I was doing at a startup company selling software. Again, I had success. It was great for the most part, but I just felt like I had more to give. So that's kind of a little bit about my kind of what led me to this path. I guess that in a combination with I read a book called Buy Then Build by Walker Diebel. I think that's who it was. And I know a lot of entrepreneurs that started with that. And it talks about buying an existing business. And so I just got hooked on that and really did a lot of research on existing businesses and jumping into that world. Anyway, that was kind of like what led up to me going in and buying a business.
And so I love that story and kind of what all went into that. I feel like from your entrepreneurial journey of maybe having like these mini side hustles and these mini tests of trying to find income on your own and then looking at your bigger picture, I think being in tech for 10 years in the same job kind of makes you reflect like, hey, what do I actually want to do for the next 10 years? I'm curious, when you went to your boss or your employer, how was that conversation? Were they pretty upset that you were like leaving, or do you feel like you were able to leave on pretty decent terms?
Good question. I felt like I had left on good terms. Again, since my mom had passed, I wasn't in the best headspace for the next few months after that. I was still working hard, putting in the inputs, but that passion wasn't there for me. And I feel like my leaders could kind of sense that. When I talked to them about, hey, I'm going to take off, I'm going to leave, a couple of them were kind of like, I'm not totally surprised. I could sense your head wasn't in the right space.
Yeah.
And for the most part, they were very supportive as well. The leadership team over there were all former Qualtrics employees. They left a great opportunity there to go start their own thing. And I think that's, just something as a leader or a business owner, I think that's what you want your employees to go do is go start their own thing. I think there's nothing cooler than having a team that, can work for you and then go off and do their own thing and build their own business. So they were supportive.
That's awesome. And I've had leaders in the past who said things like that. And I think those are some of the best leaders where they can see your potential, and if it's not there, they'll like push you to go somewhere else, right? And like those types of leaders are really special if they can see something in you and say, hey, like maybe you've tapped out your potential here. And I don't know if that was the situation, but I think those are leaders that I love working with. They truly want what's best for you and they're not going to like hold you back. And so I think that, I've listened to Walker Deibel's book on Buy Then Build. I think there's a huge movement behind it, especially because he's tied in with Cody Sanchez and the whole buying a boomer business or getting into the trades blue collar.
Yep.
There's a huge trend towards it. And I feel like you moved pretty quick, though. I'm curious just to know,
Yeah.
like what all went into that, because some people do these search funds and they'll take 6 to 12 months, but you quit your job in July and you
Yeah.
were basically LOI with Striper within like 6 or 7 weeks. That's pretty quick. Like 6 to 7 weeks. That's pretty quick to be under LOI.
Yeah. Yeah. So as far as that process, it wasn't just like hey, I'm quitting, I'm going to go find out what I'm going to do, right? I had been obviously researching businesses and I had conversations with multiple sellers trying to find the right thing. So I do have a business partner. So I've got the majority of the business. And then my business partner, Brent Parker, he owns or he's a partner over at a group called Vision Capital, where they invest or they help first time entrepreneurs like myself to really get going and hit the ground running. Brent and I, we've been doing some research on Biz Buy Sell and looking for businesses that were on the market. As I mentioned, I wanted an existing business that was already established, that already had revenue coming in, that already had a customer base. And we had a few conversations with some business owners, specifically in the services industry, and none of them really felt right. Brent was actually the one that found 1-800-Striper. So, I clicked on it, had a conversation with the broker, quickly found out that it was a franchise. Had we known it was a franchise, we probably wouldn't even have clicked on it because that wasn't our, we didn't want that. Yeah, had a conversation and he was like, "Hey, this seems really interesting. You should jump on a call and chat with them." So I had a couple of conversations with the broker and was very, very intrigued. There were a lot of things that really stuck out. And so we just, continued the conversations. And one thing led to another. We had our big discovery day with the founders of the company. And yeah, I mean, I can go into more detail if you want, but that's kind of how how it came up.
1-800-Striper. And what do you guys do again?
Yeah, 1-800-Striper. A lot of people look at it and think they see stripper, but it is Striper. It is Striper. We
That's
got
a different side
big,
hustle.
huge.
That's a different side hustle.
It's a different one. Yeah, also pays well. We
Cash
got a
only.
yeah, exactly. We got a big box truck with the 1-800-Striper. We got a lot of people doing double takes and taking pictures and stuff. I think it's funny. So it's a name you don't forget. But what we do is parking lot striping. Something I've never even thought about until last year. So we repaint parking lot lines, make them look new again. We do pavement markings, so ADA stencils, arrows, drive-through, right? Any paint that goes on the ground we can do. 95% of our work is parking lot striping, but we've actually had a huge number of people, like way more than we expected, wanting pickleball courts, sport courts, basketball courts, tennis courts, things like that. So we also do that. And then we also do warehouse painting. So we've done a couple big jobs up in Salt Lake. There's distribution centers for big grocery stores, Costco, Albertsons. We've done some of those where there's forklift traffic, pallet traffic, safety lines, things like that. Any paint that needs to go on the ground, we can help with. Aside from large stretches of roadway, right? A lot of times that's the city or UDOT that does that. We just don't have really the safety equipment or the big machines for that. Anything else we'll do. So that's what we do.
Do those jobs even pay as well? Is it does it actually pay better just to do like the small parking lots and the pickleball courts and stuff?
Yeah, I think it does actually pay pretty well just because there's there's miles and miles of roadway that even if it's if you're paying a small amount per linear foot, since it's such a high quantity, it's gonna add up. So I think that there's some money there, and I've thought about tapping into that at some point. But right now, it's really just a matter of focusing on what we specialize in and be the best at this. Once we check that box off, maybe we'll go somewhere else.
Yeah, it's surprising that you've gotten a lot of traffic with like the sports courts and stuff because it's such a big trend right now, and everywhere you go, they're putting in pickleball courts or they're putting in basketball. I mean, really, it's just the pickleball courts. Like people want them in their backyards. I mean, I want one in my backyard, right? And so,
yeah,
that's cool that you're getting traffic.
Yeah, we can help you out with that, Clayton. Just let me know.
No,
but yeah,
I mean, I've already thought of it.
The pickleball craze in the country, and especially here in Utah, is just popping off. So it's a great time. I mean, we're doing a few courts every single week. It's pretty cool.
No, there's definitely a huge craze for like pickleball and everything here in Utah. But like those are things you didn't know when you were going into the franchise. I'm curious what kind of things made you feel confident about it. Like I know looking at it, there's a lot of interesting things, probably like high margins and stuff like that. But what were some like the selling points to you that you wanted to get in on this franchise?
Yeah, there are a few things. One, the margins are very good, very attractive. I mean, I'm pretty transparent, pretty open with most things. The margins with striping are usually anywhere between 40 and 60%. So very good margins. I also liked that you could run a crew with only 2 or 3 people, right? Especially up front. I didn't want to, have to manage a crew of a couple dozen guys. It just seemed kind of overwhelming to me. So pretty pretty low barrier to entry. And that's another point, right? I mean, you take something like lawn care, where it's the easiest barrier to entry. Really, all you need is a lawnmower and you can go out and start a
Mm-hmm.
business. Striping is kind of that next level where it really is pretty simple to put paint on the ground, but the gap is wide enough where you've got a lot of people that are just kind of too afraid, like, oh, that's too hard. I don't even want to look into that. Or they don't even think of it, right? Who thinks of parking lot striping? So,
Yeah.
so a low enough barrier to entry that was difficult for most people, but still an easy learning curve. Let's see what else. One of the big ones was obviously my background is in B2B sales, and striping is a B2B sale, right? We're selling to businesses. We're doing parking lot lines. And so I kind of knew that same sell of, talking to that end user within a business setting, and could kind of flex that muscle. Obviously, there's the business to consumer side where we do pickleball courts and sport courts, but the B2B side was definitely a big selling point as well. The other thing that I really liked about the franchise model was, this franchise, the owners have been doing this for 25 plus years now. In April, they hit their 25-year mark. It's a couple out of upstate New York that started striping 25 years ago. And they actually just started franchising last year. So relatively new to the franchise space, but they've already got like 3 dozen franchisees out in the country. So they're popping off. People are also seeing the value of it. But being able to have someone in my corner, especially for my first business, has been so valuable, right? I can call up these owners anytime and ask for, how do you do this? Or what do you recommend for how to lay this out or do this or that? And they're just the greatest people ever. I mean, I talked to the owner. I talked to him last night. I talked to him probably twice a week.
Mm-hmm.
So having an established business model and someone in my corner that I can call at any time and say, hey, what do you recommend? How do I do this? Is just super, super valuable, because people do ask, like, why didn't you just go buy a striper and start it? I could have, but I would be not even close to where I am today as far as revenue, knowledge, employees, all that. So yeah, those are a few of the main
That's
reasons that kind of were attractive to me.
Yeah, that's a huge benefit of the franchises, like the accountability, the team. They can help push you and help like what's up from down. I'm curious, were they also really helpful on the resource side? Like, were they able to provide you with like CRM and like any maybe even leads or lead sources?
To an extent, frankly, probably not as much as most people think that they would provide. Obviously, you get the name, you get the 1-800 striper. Like any 1-800 number is pretty golden, and so that's a big advantage. A lot of the marketing and lead gen, I should say, all of the marketing and lead gen is really done by me, and I guess me.
Yeah.
The yeah. So again, they're more of kind of a resource in terms of, hey, this is how you do things. This is how you operate. I had a full week of training out there where they were very thorough and in depth. But as far as kind of the day to day, and one thing I really admire and appreciate is they let us be very autonomous in how we operate. I know a lot of franchises are very like, hey, you have to do this and this and this, and you can't change anything. Whereas a lot of it's kind of up to us, which is really nice.
Mm-hmm. Um, yeah, I think it's also good that you have that B2B sales background, because between that and the high margins, it really leverages your skill set, which is going in and driving revenue, but you also have enough margins that you can invest in marketing or demand gen and stuff like that. I'm curious, like, how did you find your first customer? Was it an inbound that they'd given you, or like how did you find your first couple customers?
Yeah, good question. And you're spot on there, right? About, using the B2B skill I have, and then just kind of using some of the other revenue for other lead gen sources. First few customers were really just friends and family, if I'm being honest, right? It's just people that say, hey, I've got a parking lot I need done. Come do it. I'll let you cut your teeth a little bit. So that was really the first few. But as far as the first that was outside friends and family, there's a company up in Draper. They're called Moto United. They sell motorcycles and ATVs and do repairs and things like that. And it was just a cold outreach. So I would say most of the business that I've gotten, probably 75% or more, has been just cold outreach. A lot of franchisees, we're in a group Slack with all 40 of us or 50 of us. a lot of them will reach out and say, "Hey, like, what's the secret sauce? What's the magic?" And that's something that I think a lot of, especially first time buyers of business or first time business owners, think there's some magic recipe. And my response is always, you just got to work hard. And that sounds so cliche. It's almost like a cop out answer, but you got to pick up the phone and call people. You got to go knock on doors. I've done that so much this past, 9, 10 months. It's really just hustling. And, the more you can do that, especially at the beginning, it's just going to pay dividends. That's the secret sauce is don't be afraid to call people and knock on doors.
So what does that look like when you're actually doing it? Are you actually going out and knocking on that person's door? Like going to that United Moto store and you just show up and say, "Hey, I'm here to stripe," or like what are some of the things that you've done?
Yeah. So I do, I mean, obviously being in software for the last 10 years, I'm very tech savvy and I've come across a number of different software tools that have helped make this easier. So I use something called Apollo. A lot of people are familiar with it. It's a tool that allows you to gather different personas and different titles. And then you can also enroll people in drip cadences or sequences where you can, if for those that don't know what that is, it's basically a series of outbound touches that allow you to contact someone. So it's a combination of emails, LinkedIn messages, phone calls, texts, right? Kind of all these, and there's a
Mm-hmm.
series of steps that you go through. And so it's been a combination of just putting people in sequences and having multiple outreaches. And then the other part is just honestly driving by. I've got the ability and the advantage of seeing, oh, your lines are faded, right? So I can go up to the secretary or whoever's at the front desk and say, "Hey, who's the best person to talk with about parking lot maintenance?" And they'll say, "Oh, yeah, you need to talk to this person," right? So a lot of it is outbound cold calling, but a lot of it is also just driving by saying, "Hey, they need lines." And I've had a lot of friends that will just text me randomly and be like, "Hey, this golf course needs lines. Hey, Seven Piece needs lines," right? People all the time are like, "Hey,
Yeah.
this parking lot sucks. You need to go. You need to go get it." So a
Yeah, I
little
feel
bit
like
of
I've
that, a
sent
little
you a
bit of
couple of text
all
messages
those.
like that too. Like I'll be at the park and I'll be like, "Yo,
You
Jordan, you gotta hit
have,
up Eagle Mountain or whatever," right? I feel
yep,
like you can
yep,
even.
and that's
I've seen some of
appreciated.
your yeah. I feel like I've seen some of your LinkedIn posts too, where you'll do a before and after, and that'd be such an easy email where you could just subject line like,
Yeah.
"Does your parking lot look like this?" And then you just have the picture in there, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I guess I'll hit these guys up," right? Or being able to
Right.
take a picture of the lot and be like, "Your parking lot looks like trash." Maybe not say it like that, but
Yeah.
that like it's something probably people don't think about, and then when they do think about it, who are you going to call? Like I don't know, but 1-800 striper,
Yeah.
that's an easy thing to remember.
Sure. No, totally. You're spot on, right? It's a very satisfying job. You lay paint down and first there's not a line and then there's a line. It's like, whoa, it looks cool, right? It looks pretty, whatever. And it's not sexy, but yeah, everyone needs parking lot lines, so it's
Yeah.
great. I was gonna say, oh, another big reason why I went into that I wanted a service-based business was for this reason. I mean, think of how many times you've called some sort of contractor, whether it was a landscaper, someone to, you know, lay down concrete or finish your basement, whatever it is, right? You call someone, you get bid, or you're trying to get bids. Maybe you call 5 people, one calls you back, right? You've got four
Hmm.
people that you're trying to get their business or give them business and they won't even reply. Like it's just shocking to me. And that's not uncommon at all in the blue collar space. So I just thought, if I can have very good communication and a website that is halfway decent, because most people don't even have a website, I'm already better than half the people out there. And so that was another thing that really made me want to get into this space. And it's been great, right? I've just trying to be professional with customers and kind of take it to that next level of really building that relationship, kind of like you do in software sales, but doing it in this space. A lot of people aren't used to. A lot of people don't have that. And obviously, there are those businesses out there that are just phenomenal in the service-based business, and a lot of them are doing exactly this. So I thought, you know what, I can do that. I can replicate that. So that's also led to a lot of success.
Yeah. Well, my dad's in the trades, and I remember asking him one time about it about your business, and he was like, "Yeah, I know one person in town that did striping, but it was like a side hustle thing for him. Like the guy, he did it for the city. He would do all the like city lines, and then he would just go do like parking lots for businesses a little bit on the side too. But if you think about it, there's not a lot of businesses that are dedicated to that one thing. Like it might be a concrete person's like add-on, but even like people that do concrete work don't have like a professional website or know how to follow up on leads, be like really persistent and all those things that you need to really capture the market. And so I think that like with your background in B2B and understanding like every lead is important, it just sets you apart in a huge way. Um so I think that's really interesting. I'm curious, I know you have one box. Are you just well actually yeah, are you just one box truck or are you at two now?
So I'm just at one right now. Yeah. So as far as kind of the timeline went, I left my 9 to 5 in July, so about a year ago. August, at the very end of August, I signed on the dotted line. September, I had all my training and finalized an SBA loan, so that's how I funded this. And then October is when we actually started doing our first jobs. And I was telling you this earlier, it's a little bit of a challenge as far as the winter months go, because if there's any moisture on the ground, if snow and rain on the ground, we can't lay any paint down. So we're really shut down for a few months in the winter as far as outside work, right? We can still do warehouses and things indoors. But to come back to your question, so I've got 3 franchises. So I go from Bountiful down to Santaquin, and really everywhere in between east and west. So, Twilla to Vernal, basically. So it's a really good area that makes up 3 territories. And eventually, the goal is to have at least one truck per territory. But obviously,
Mhm.
getting started, we just have the one truck that's servicing all locations right now.
So are you doing any of the striping yourself or do you have a couple team members that are doing most of it?
Yeah, so I've got a crew of 4 guys, and they're great. They are doing the striping 90% of the time. I will occasionally go out if it's more of a technical job or if it's a huge job and they need extra support. Or if, maybe we've got a couple guys that are just out of town or, with time off, then I'll go out and help. Yeah, the goal is definitely to really just manage it from a true revenue perspective, to drive leads, to do the marketing, to establish relationships, and then my crew is out striping.
That's incredible that you can do that much with just like one box truck. Um, I think that's really interesting. I guess trying to think where I had another question about that. Oh yeah, it was about how you handle the winters. You said it slows down quite a bit. Do you have a plan? Because I know last winter it was kind of like your first winter going into it. How do you plan on treating this winter
Yeah.
different to kind of hedge against the seasonality of the business?
Yeah. So,
Or
yeah,
maybe
last
you'll
year
just
was a
take it off and
challenge,
go
especially.
skiing.
Yeah, eventually we'll get there. All right. I've thought of a few different things. One is to potentially just go down to St. George or some, warmer climate area and an area that is not claimed already by another franchisee. But, something like St. George would be perfect where you just go down there, set up shop for a few months and just go out and bang out a bunch of work there. The other thing is that'll definitely that's more likely what I'll do is go hit up as many warehouses as I can and talk to them about doing their indoor warehouse striping. I've been in North Salt Lake and West Valley more than I ever have, and the reason why is because there's so many massive distribution centers and factories and warehouses and facilities. So there's just so much opportunity out there. And I'm just gonna go knock on their door and say, hey, who do I need to talk to? Here's some of the work we've done. Let's get on the schedule and get your striping done in the winter. So yeah, those are the two different routes I could go. Right.
Yeah, that could be really huge doing stacking up all your indoor work for the winter because there are so many warehouses up in Salt Lake from Amazon to, like Walmart and stuff like that. I mean, and I'm sure that they have to have a lot of it done even for code, right? For legal
No,
reasons.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Spot on.
Do you know of any like that where it's like actually a code that they have to have it up to date?
Well, for example, a lot of it's code. I don't know exactly the legal ramifications there. I should probably do some more educating myself there. But another thing is, so for example, we did Costco's big warehouse. Oh, we've done it. We've done a few different jobs up there. But the general manager called me up a couple days ago. He's like, "Hey, we have our corporate team coming into our office tomorrow to do an inspection, and we want to make sure everything looks nice and beautiful. Can you come up and do all these things?" Great. Obviously, we went up and did that. So that's another thing is, you get these executive teams or corporate teams coming out and kind of doing on-site inspections, and people want everything to look beautiful and perfect. And so that's another time where, or another reason why people like, getting the striping done inside. Executive or corporate teams will go do on-site visits to these locations, which was the case with Costco recently. And they said, "Hey, our corporate team's coming up tomorrow. Can you come in and restripe everything, make everything look pretty?" And great, we'll do that. So I was just saying, aside from the legal ramifications that people have to, get certain things in place, it's also a matter of making things just look prettier, right? For when the leadership teams are coming in.
Yeah. No, that's huge too. Well, Jordan, it's been a blast having you on the show. Appreciate you being here. For
Thank you.
listeners, go connect with Jordan on LinkedIn, follow. He's posting a lot of stuff about his journey, and it's been fun to watch, and we'll keep you posted on some of the growth he has. So thanks for being on, man.
Playland, I appreciate it, man.